Everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, but I'm here to talk to you about our heritage language program, which has really taken off these past couple of years. It started in 2021, and we're now in year 4 of its implementation. And I've presented at DESE. Many people have contacted me to talk about how we began the program, how we wrote the curriculum for it. So I'm just going to present kind of the thought process behind the creation of our heritage language program, and the route we took to write the curriculum, and what we currently offer for our students. So I titled this Exploring, Growing, and Preserving the Multiple Identities of the Heritage Language Learner. And as we know, as world language teachers, language is such a huge part of a student's identity, of everybody's identity. So, excuse me. So heritage language learning is essential for representation of all students and including them in the program of studies of your schools. So how did the program here at Shrewsbury Public Schools come to happen? We did some research on which languages students would like to see added to our program of studies. The big finding was that Portuguese was the number one language, and it's that students wanted to see here at Shrewsbury Public Schools, and also that Portuguese is the second most spoken language after English in the town of Shrewsbury. So we involved students in the research process when we were thinking of adding an additional program to our world language program offerings here at Shrewsbury High School. As I said, we reached out to the school and the community, and we created our why. Originally, the plan was to add a world language Portuguese offering, but that would have required a significant investment in personnel. And as you know, many districts in recent years, post-pandemic, are facing both shortages of teachers as well as shortages of funds to start programs. So we opted for the resources that we already had in Shrewsbury. We knew that we had competent Spanish teachers who could offer a heritage Spanish program, and we also, based on my certification, my dual certification, I am required to teach one section, and initially, our first year, we only had one section of Portuguese, heritage Portuguese, and one section of heritage Spanish. So the first year's investment was not as significant as the following years. Then after deciding on what we were going to do, we proposed the addition of the heritage language program on the program of studies. That is done in leadership meetings with the administration. We had to talk about staffing impact, how many FTEs would be dedicated to this program. Then we thought about how we're going to integrate this in our world language offering. Spanish, it allows for easier integration because of the AP offering in Spanish. There's no AP offering in Portuguese. So as you will see, the path in Portuguese is significantly different than Spanish, where heritage language is 2 years, and then those students afterward go into an upper level world language course ultimately, and we use Apple testing data to place them either in AP or 5 honors, and after the 5 honors, they go into AP Spanish. After we presented, our curriculum gets presented to school committee, and once that was done, we had to work on curriculum for that summer before our first year of piloting the program. So we'll talk about the program itself. First, we'll discuss the differences between the Spanish and Portuguese and how many years. So for our Portuguese program, world language program, we have 4 levels, or essentially 4 years. And Spanish, like I said, 2 years. So the levels 1 and 2 curriculum was, we did this work, and it's language agnostic curriculum, and it's aimed at building proficiency, especially building literacy in those languages. We used a template that we'll go over in a bit to create the curriculum. So years 1 and 2 of our heritage program is language agnostic. For both Spanish and Portuguese, uses the same curriculum, same themes. And what happens, like I said, in Spanish, after heritage level 2, students go integrate into the world language program at upper levels. And our themes for those years for those levels focus on AP themes, as paying particular attention to identity in those themes, types of identity in the contexts. So for, like I said, for Spanish, years 3 and 4, they join world language offerings, and students hopefully stick around with us and end at AP Spanish. What we do after level 2, during level 2, our students take, as part of their coursework, the students take the Apple test to participate in SELA biliteracy, and the reading portion is their final exam. So we kind of work in Apple as part of our curriculum in both heritage language and world language. So with that data for our Spanish students who are in heritage Spanish 2, we get that data, and our students score. If the students score advanced in everything in the modes, they go directly into AP for their year 3. If they're still at intermediate high, then we talk to the students when we have course placements and give them the option of intermediate Spanish 4 honors to kind of build more proficiency, or intermediate Spanish 5 honors for their 3rd year. They have those 2 choices, and their 4th year will be AP Spanish. Portuguese is a little different because there's no AP Portuguese, as we know. So our curriculum in years 3 and 4 shifts to an ELA model. So essentially what we ended up doing was we bought a language arts curriculum from Portugal. And the reason we chose Portugal was although most of our students speak Brazilian Portuguese, the editors in Portugal were much easier to work with and purchase materials. In Brazil, it was very complicated, very bureaucratic. You had to have a official school ID that had to be registered with the Brazilian Ministry of Education in order to purchase any curriculum materials. And so what ended up happening is we bought programs and resources, a great program through an editor called Porto Editora. And although the text that we purchased are in European Portuguese. Part of the curriculum in our Heritage Portuguese program is for students to learn how Portuguese is a world language and how there are different variations. So students actually build an appreciation for the different varieties of Portuguese, spoken varieties, written varieties of Portuguese. So we study, African, Luso-African countries in their Portuguese, European Portuguese, and within European Portuguese, the variations from continental Portuguese to the archipelagos, the Azores and Madeira. And also we look at Macau and we look at Timor-Leste and Asian Portuguese. And so students find that fascinating, and it was a good way to kind of justify the use of those materials, but also build some understanding with students. Part of the curriculum is identifying the linguistic varieties and looking at syntax and what makes European Portuguese, what syntax follows European Portuguese models and Brazilian Portuguese models, etc. So it was a good way to give students exposure to the different varieties of the language. Because what we've learned is that you cannot teach one accent or one standard. We can't put any norms on language because we're kind of minimizing other people and their language if we do that. So we don't. When I often am asked by parents, Brazilian parents in particular, what Portuguese do we teach? I say we just teach Portuguese. Because it's one language with many varieties, but we teach it as a global language. So students are prepared to use it in all geographical contexts. So for our levels 1 and 2 courses, we use the curtain backward design template. I think I got this at the Proficiency Academy years ago with Greg Duncan. As I said, we looked at the AP themes and we built our curriculum around them. So this unit focuses on the beauty and aesthetics AP theme. And as you can see, how is beauty reflected in our world? We're lucky because we wrote this curriculum the year of the implementation of the framework. So these were our first courses that aligned to the frameworks. And I find this template very user-friendly and less overwhelming than the other templates. So what we have is our curriculum is now all digital. So you don't see it here, but on the sheets below, there's a section to put all assessments and put in some of the major activities that happen during the unit. And so when we have new staff join us, they just go to these templates and they have authentic resources that are already linked on this, so it helps the teacher in planning. They don't have to do so much searching themselves. Everything's already there for them. And so I'm going to leave you with this question. Where do you see your district in terms of embracing heritage language learning and starting a heritage language program? If you haven't considered beginning a heritage language program, I strongly encourage that you do. Advocacy is so big in starting programs, so you need to use the same process that we do. Begin with the why. Why is this important? In order to share it with all stakeholders and gain some support. And speaking of which, if you ever need support, if you have any questions, I'm not an expert in heritage language curriculum or instruction, by all means. Please reach out, and I'll be happy to talk to you about our program and share some resources. I hope you have a wonderful day with your fellow EMFLA leaders, and I will see you next time.